call them
evening.
if we have to.
I'd like to call to order this regular board meeting for May 10th, 2017 of the Pullman School District. We will begin with a flag salute, which is going to be read by led by Robbie Allen. So if we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Yes, we have one change, and that is under item number 4, reports, correspondence, and program. The LMS student report will not be tonight. That'll be moved to another time.
Okay.
That is the only change to the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda with the amendments.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Next, we move on to reports, correspondence, and program, beginning with board reports. Director Weed.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Dr. Maxwell for his listening tour. I thought it was, hopefully, everybody felt it was worthwhile. I certainly really appreciated all the staff and teachers at Jefferson that came in and shared with us. It was something that we really needed to hear, and I thank you very much for doing that, because I learned a lot and lots of things to think about, so thank you for that. And fifth grade camp is going on. It's my favorite thing, so, and they've got decent weather, so hopefully it holds till it's over, but that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Weed. Director Everman.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Director Johansson.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Director Kinzer.
Oh, I just quick report on Sunnyside School. Right now, on Thursdays, the second and K through second grade are working on a gardening club, usually from 11:30 to 12:20 p.m. And on Fridays, the gardening club, which consists of third through fifth graders, are working out in the greenhouses from 11:30 to 12:30. So it's that time of year, and pretty interesting. I'm sure the kids are having a lot of fun with that.
I imagine you relate to that, given your agricultural...
I'll bet they don't put in as many hours as I do, but that's okay.
Thank you, Director Kinzer.
Yes.
I guess I'll report by echoing Director Weed. I also greatly benefited from participating in the listening tour. I did 2 sessions, one at Lincoln and one at the district office. Learned so much, and again, thank you, Superintendent Maxwell, for hosting that. Also, several of us attended the WASDA regional meetings in Freeman last Thursday, and we were presented with a mind-boggling array of budgeting alternatives that are currently being considered in the legislature, and there are calculations available where you can look at line items and how your district is affected by the different scenarios. And I imagine, Superintendent Maxwell, that you are in the process of studying some of those. If there's something we need to communicate to the legislature.
Yep, and I've been communicating with legislators how it will impact Pullman School District on each of those. So we're having ongoing discussions.
One of the things we learned is that transportation is basically not addressed in some of those scenarios, which really puts rural school districts at a comparative disadvantage.
Correct.
Including ours.
Including ours.
Yes.
Some are hit even worse than ours, though. So
That's in the Senate budget.
yeah, that's right. Okay. Next, we will move on to the Phs Asb Report, and I'd like to introduce Robbie Allen, who's Executive Director of... President of the ASB. And
not for much longer, though.
Okay,
so.
take it away. Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name's Robbie Allen. I'm the current Executive President of ASB, and here with me today are the new Executive Council Cabinet for the 2017-2018 school year. So you guys can just introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Ben Riley. I'm the ASB Executive President.
My name's Nick Smith. I'm the Executive Vice President.
My name is Colin Finch. I'm the Executive Secretary.
My name is Madeline Maxwell. I'm one of the Executive Treasurers.
I'm Cambria Smetzina, and I'm the other Executive Treasurer.
And so now for part of it, they're going to do the report as well. So I don't have to.
You really get them into this.
That's handoff.
Okay, so currently the class elections are being held next week due to delays because of the ASB executive vote. Speeches will then be on Monday, and then voting will be on Tuesday.
Currently, the leadership class is just working on wrapping up end of the year things. We're having a unified prom, which Cambria will talk about.
Hi, so our unified prom is for the special needs students at our school. We've noticed that they often don't get the chance to go to the prom that the rest of the students attend. So during the school day, we will be having one specifically for them, and students are invited and welcome to join.
Oh, that's awesome.
And PHS is planning a senior week coming up. So basically what this would be, I think it's the week leading up to graduation, if I'm positive. And it'll kind of run like a spirit week, but it'll be more focused on seniors. We're looking at ideas like a senior breakfast, and then possibly getting like some food trucks here during lunches just to kind of reward students and get them excited for the end of the year. We're also going to Franklin to help the Franklin Foxes with their walkathon, or rockathon, I believe it's called. And that'll be next Friday, and we're really excited to do that.
Aside from those bulletin points, I think we're just basically trying to get integrated to the whole ASB system. We just elected our 2 treasurers here last week, so we're kind of just trying to work out all the kinks and get integrated into ASB, but otherwise things are going good.
All right. Thank you for your time. And hopefully you guys look forward to meeting with them more. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have our Superintendent's Report. Superintendent Maxwell.
All right, thank you very much. So I have quite a list of things that I do want to share with you and the audience tonight. I'm going to start with Teacher Appreciation Week, and so a big shout out to our staff who work every day to ensure that teaching and learning occurs at the highest levels here in the Pullman School District. And we do have a proclamation from Governor Inslee, so I'm going to go over that. So the proclamation reads, whereas a strong and effective system of free public school education for all children and youth is essential to our democratic system of government, and whereas the United States has made considerable progress in the social, technological, and scientific fields due to our system of free and universal public education, and whereas much of this progress can be attributed to the qualified and dedicated teachers entrusted with the educational development of our children, and whereas teachers provide opportunities for students to connect with the world around them, develop basic skills for success in life and work, experience the realization of high expectations and fulfillment of steps towards achievable goals, and whereas teachers should be accorded high public esteem reflecting the value placed on their skills and abilities and the importance of public education, and whereas it is appropriate that teachers be recognized for their dedication and commitment to educating their students. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim May 8th through the 12th, 2017 as Teacher Appreciation Week, and May 9th is Teacher Appreciation Day. So, a big shout out to our teachers. And not to be left out, it is also Nurses Appreciation Week, and a shout out to all of our nursing staff who work very hard to ensure the safety and health of our students each and every day, and they do a fabulous job. And so our lead nurse is down at camp right now, so but they all do a great job. So appreciate that as well. So congratulations. And a dedicated teacher of the year has been selected, and that will be going to Sandra Casanova, who deserves that, and she will be here at our next board meeting because she is also down at 5th grade camp. So if we can get a round of applause for Sandra, even though she's not here. And I'll just note that the submissions this year were outstanding, and I know it was a difficult decision for the board to make in selecting the dedicated teacher of the year. Next, I would like to invite up to the podium Sandra Albers, who is the president of the Pullman Education Foundation, for recognition of an award. So welcome again, Sandra. So as many of you may or may not know, Sandra Albers is president of Pullman Education Foundation, and each year the WASA, which is the Washington State Association of Administrators, has a community award. And so each district submits a community award nomination, and then they're recognized at a lunch. And that luncheon occurred last month, and actually Sandra Albers was our winner, and she received the community award for the Pullman School District through the WASA organization. And we're just here to really recognize you and appreciate you because you were not at the last board meeting. And Allison has a gift of flowers. And I will just say that Sandra took over the PAF as president, and that is a really grueling position to hold. And she was nominated for this award because she spent countless hours going through decades and decades of files and boxes, forms and agreements, and really has pared down, structured, organized, fixed a lot of items that were kind of lost due to a change in leadership over the years and just historical drift, and just did a fantastic job. And so I really believe that she deserved this award because she's put in countless hours, and I think what the PAF is able to do to support our district is outstanding, and it's due to her leadership. So.
Sorry. Congratulations. I tell you.
So next I'd like to invite up Evan Hecker, our new principal for Kamiah Elementary. If you would come on up to the podium, please, for just a moment. So after a very rigorous process, Evan has been selected for the Kamiah principalship, and he will be starting July 1, and he has a busy year. Not only will he be co-principaling at all 3 elementary schools, but he will also be preparing for the opening of the new school, which takes a lot of work as far as with the construction, with the outfitting, furniture, colors, hiring staff, putting together systems and processes. So it is my pleasure to welcome Evan, who has a wealth of administrative experience, and we also stole them from Moscow, so they're not too happy with me right now, but that's okay, they'll get over it. So welcome, if you'd like to say a few words, and I know your wife's here, if you want to introduce her as well.
Carly Hecker's right here. Thanks for the introduction, Dr. Maxwell and the rest of the school board. Yeah, we are thrilled about the opportunity to be a part of Pullman Public Schools in Kamiah Elementary. And I'm just giddy about starting July 1. Can't wait. Last time I was in this room, I was interviewing in front of many of these people in here. And so again, we're excited about the opportunity to be a part of such a fine school district. My 2 sons go to Sunnyside Elementary. I have a 4th grader and a 1st grader. Then I have a preschool daughter, Georgia. She'll be hopefully at Kamiah here in a couple years. Thanks again. Can't be, I just don't have words to express how thankful and happy I am about the opportunity.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. So, just a couple things I'll just mention briefly. You've heard about the listening tour that's been happening, and so it's been conducted at all schools. We've received a lot of great feedback, comments, and suggestions, and so those will be things that we'll be reviewing and working on for the rest of this year and going into next year. So I really appreciate the time and talent and energy of all the staff that participated. And so I also have some more office hours scheduled for some folks that were unable to attend during the scheduled times. So really appreciate that. Just a quick staffing update. So if you have not heard, Desiree Gould, the assistant principal here at the high school, is taking a leave of absence next year for 1 year. And with that, Justin Polstead graciously volunteered to come up to the high school for 1 year to fill in as AP. And Tammy Sewell graciously volunteered to fill Justin's spot at the middle school. Both are very familiar with the staffs at each of those buildings and with the systems, and that is a great help to us filling that positions for the next year. So we really appreciate, and I thank them for coming up with a great solution. Also, PHS Kamiah Elementary construction update. As you can see here at PHS, we're just about done. We're finishing up a little bit of the landscaping, and we can mark this project as done. Looking at Kamiah Elementary, we're finally starting to move a little bit of dirt on the site. It's called an early grading package, and basically that's to get the foundation where the building will be nice and level, compacted. Unfortunately, it looks like the weather's going to interfere with that again later this week, but we're hoping to get that wrapped up in time for the bid, which will be in June for the building, and I'm hoping for construction to start in August. So we'll see how that works. And just lastly, a variety of year-end activities. There's orchestra tonight, wax museum, choir, FFA convention, sports. Every night somewhere there's something to do. So if you are looking for something to entertain yourself, just go to our website and check out our calendar at each school, and you can find a variety of things to attend, and they're just fabulous. So with that, I'll stop.
Thank you. Would you like to introduce?
Sure would. Yes.
Under your superintendent report.
And following up with my report, I'd like to invite up Erin Willie, who is our leadership class teacher, and she has a presentation for us tonight, or at least an update, I should say.
Oh, yeah, it's a presentation.
No,
We have kids working for this one. So hello, I'm Erin Willie. I'm going to get my PowerPoint up real fast. I have some fabulous leadership students. And so leadership students, do you guys mind kind of moving, those of you kind of moving up here too when you're kind of walking up so it's not. So it's going to be me talking about leadership, but also I thought it'd be important for you guys to hear from their perspective what leadership is like for them. So we kind of are going to go back and forth with this. So let me get the lovely presentation up. Great. Cool. So, my name's Erin Willie, and I started the leadership class last year. Actually, about this time last year, we got it approved. So this is a kind of a year update of what we did in leadership class. So the goal last year for leadership class and how I made sure I presented it to the CAC and then came to school board and we discussed all kinds of things about it. So one of the things we discussed is we really want students to be more hireable. And so this ended up being a CTE credit with a business focus at the high school. Should I talk like this? Is that a little bit better? Business focus. It's also an elective credit for certain students because we have so many awesome CTE classes that kids just keep wanting to take them. And so really our goal was to build a strong culture at Pullman High School. I was a new teacher last year, and one of the things that I was totally shocked at is the fact that kids didn't participate in things. There almost wasn't a homecoming until I just stepped up and said, no, we're doing something. So things like that, and so I really wanted to change our school culture so it was positive and upbeat for kids to actually want to be involved in our school. So, that being said, I'm going to have Robbie come and talk about his experience.
Hello again. So I just want to start off by saying the perspective that I'm kind of offering or telling you guys about is more so from an executive president standpoint rather than a student. That being said, piggybacking off of what Mrs. Willie said about changing the school culture, there was a lot of students that wanted to change the school culture, and as a result, when I tried to join the class, both of them were full, and so I kind of had to kick someone out for my spot. But both semesters they've been full, and there's just a bunch of kids wanting to join that class. But in terms of ASB standpoint, this class has given me a lot of time in class to work on whatever projects I may need. And the great part is Mrs. Willie is also the ASB advisor, so she's been able to help me, or I've been able to ask her questions much easier than I would have had I not been in the class. So one result is the Constitution. I was able to work a lot on the Constitution in that class. Now, I did do some out of the class, but a lot of it was done in that class, and that was very helpful, having that time set aside to do that. Another thing would be the food drive. So this is the picture of all the food we collected. This was back in October, and so as a result, we were able to take that during that class period because I was involved with sports and whatnot during that class period, so that was also very helpful. And then one huge thing is meeting with administration, because a lot of our students are involved with school activities, and I, for one, had sports after school and obviously classes during the day. But meeting with any administration, so like Mrs. Lacey, the ASB treasurer, it's hard to meet with her because I wouldn't have had time to, because they're only here kind of 7:30 to 5, and that's kind of when you have sports or school. And so that was huge. It's kind of like a small detail, but it made a huge difference. And then in terms of being in leadership class, it allowed me to stay informed and updated, which helped because I was able to explain things to the ASB, as well as being involved with the rest of the school, which is always important to kind of keep that public image up as well. All right, thank you.
So you guys are helping me because this is also working on their speaking skills, so this is great for me. So part of that is the curriculum, and as I discussed, so the curriculum this year, we use the AWSL frameworks, which has to do with, they have 5 main themes: communication, group processes, managerial skills, self-awareness, and human relations. And then what I do is take those concepts and then make the kids do stuff hands-on. I feel like that's the best way kids can learn leadership, is actually by being leaders. So we have done all kinds of different events because I want them to learn how to actually run events. We also, I've been kind of picking and choosing. I use a lot of TED Talks for my curriculum, there are a lot of great resources online that help teach different leadership skills, and they're up to date. I've also been working with all of my friends who are still, before I was a teacher, I worked at Microsoft, so all those people to help give me ideas of what actually people are looking for in the business world and what actually would make people hireable. And so I've been trying to implement that with the students, and so they know how they can get a job in the future, because that's always incredibly important. So, that being said, I now have Maddie Maxwell and Savannah Logan who are going to come up and talk real fast. I realized, girls, your slide got messed up, so just go for the best. You're good. They're fabulous. I'm having them go. They also have to run and go to a orchestra concert, so no pressure.
So hi, I'm Maddie Maxwell again.
And I'm Savannah Logan. And so we just, I guess, are going over our experiences in leadership now. Okay. So at the beginning of the year, we had an entire class of people that didn't know each other. It ranges from me, the freshman, all the way up to giant groups of seniors. And so everyone, I think we spent the first week or two figuring out, talking to each other, getting to know each other, and being comfortable with the class as a whole so that we could actually accomplish tasks as more of a group instead of individuals.
Yeah, at first it was really difficult for Savannah and I. I think I was one of 3 sophomores in the class and she was the only freshman. So we really had to get to know each other because it was awkward working with upperclassmen who we didn't know. And one of the first things that Savannah and I did together was we booked a venue for homecoming. And this was huge. I had never called a business before, and we learned it's really hard to call different venues. We realized that we couldn't necessarily have homecoming at the venue we wanted to have it at, so then we had to change venues. And that was a difficult experience, but we pulled it off and we made it work.
Yeah, between having to figure out what space we needed and then pricing tickets so that we could get the number of people to get to that venue, upon figuring out the music, we had to book the DJ plus the venue, figuring out the tickets and the photos that were going to be at the dance. And it was a lot of coordinating with a bunch of different people. We met with our final venue, which was SEL, to figure out what we wanted to be set up for us and what we wanted to see when we got there.
Yep, our next big thing we accomplished this year was right here. You can see the Polar Express Pajama Party. I just want to give a shout out to Miriam. She's sitting right here. This was her idea, and this was a brilliant idea. One thing that we wanted to do this year, we kind of made a goal in leadership, was we wanted to reach out to the elementary schools and get kids excited to be Greyhounds. You don't see that a lot in Pullman, and you see it in other places, and maybe that's part of the reason that our school was lacking school spirit, is because kids weren't excited to get here. And so Miriam had the idea that we would have a Polar Express Pajama Party, which is basically what it sounds like. We had kids come up from the elementary schools. The idea was that they could come here while their parents went holiday shopping, and we watched the Polar Express. We decorated Christmas cookies or holiday cookies, and we did lots of fun crafts, and that was a great experience. And we were really nervous because we had to pick a date that worked for all of us, which was difficult and was kind of last minute. We were thinking, oh no, 3 kids are going to show up, and then that's what happened, and it was incredible. And we're really excited. It was a great fundraiser for our school. We didn't think we were going to make a profit, and we did. And that was an incredible learning experience.
And as you can see, there was, as Maddie said, plenty of people that attended, as well as a bunch of high schoolers that were willing to volunteer and spend one of their Saturdays hanging out with a bunch of little kids who look up to high schoolers, which made it a really fun experience to see the differences between.
Yep. And then we did a couple other things after this, kind of 2 things around the same time I'll talk about. I am in sophomore class ASB this current year, and so my job was to plan SADs, and I was the only sophomore ASB rep that was in leadership. So Savannah really helped me. We kind of talked to our venue for our Sadie Hawkins dance. We handmade every single ticket that we sold, and that was really challenging.
Not only handmade, but hand designed.
Yeah, hand designed, and then sold the tickets. So that was really fun. And we also have what we called our leadership final. So in leadership, our final was to have a project that we think would make the school a better place. And so Savannah and I set up a fun run that we wanted to do, but we couldn't because of weather, really. And we were going to do it next year. And that was a great experience. We had to set up a plan. We had to think of, okay, here's things that could go wrong, and here's how we're going to solve them. And again, we had to reach out to the community for that as well.
Well, and along with that project is, as our leadership final, what our task was to do was to figure out something that we could do for the community or that we could do for our school, and then create a plan that could be to the point of all we had to do was put it into motion. So we had to figure out who was going to be involved, where was it going to be, how much was this, how much was that, what was going to be offered. And so we ended up creating an entire PHS Fun Run booklet that literally you could hand to someone and they could do it on their own with the steps given.
Yep. Another thing we did this year was found the Hype Squad. This was a final Shark Tank idea is what we called them. It's the same final project we did with the Fun Run, but 2 of our friends did this and they really needed our help. And so we learned basically how you start a club, and that was really interesting. We had to go and present our idea, pitch it to the ASB, and then they approved it, so then we had to pitch it to the Boosters Club, and that was an exciting process just to see how that worked. And now we have a new idea behind Hype Squad. It's something you try out for. It's kind of like Spirit Club, but you have to earn it. We joke it's almost a secret society. You go and you get the crowd hyped at games. It's not a secret society. That's kind of the joke. You go and you get the crowd hyped at games, and eventually we really, again, want to get kids spirited. We want to get people involved in this, so we're thinking about doing pre-game barbecue sponsored by the Hype Squad or something like that.
It really gives, it's kind of a cheerleading type thing, but not, but with an entirely squad of guys with their entire job is hyping it up, and they get, since they're not a sport but more of a club, they have the opportunity that they don't have to have regular practices, so that kids who are involved in football and basketball and those sort of things can still help with the other sports and promoting the hype there as well.
Yep. And then Savannah and I are both really excited to take leadership 2 next year. We have so many ideas and so many things we can still learn, and we can't wait for that, and just making our school a better place, the community a better place, and making PHS known. It's great we live in a college town. That's fantastic. And in a way, sometimes it's almost like we get a little bit overlooked by WSU. So we want to use that resource. We want to reach out to WSU. We want to reach out to the community, and we're so excited to get to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. These are just our curricular resources. Again, I said TED Talks, AWSP. The hands-on experience. This is a picture. The kids keep talking about their Shark Tank. It's a beautiful picture. Don't judge me, ladies. But they keep talking about the Shark Tank, and so I'm going to have them kind of talk about what exactly that is. It's a project I came up with, kind of like the concept of Shark Tank, like the show, where the kids had to come in and they had 2 weeks to come up with, here's a problem at the school, how do we go fix it? And so they had to, I gave them a list of, here are the questions I'm going to ask, and then they had to come up with something. So I was very proud. Especially Abby Tingstad, Delaney Williams, and Miriam Hefty. Come tell them about yours, ladies.
Okay, hi, I'm Abby Tingstad.
I'm Miriam Hefty.
And I'm Delaney Williams. And for fear of overlapping what other people said, we're just going to talk about our Shark Tank. We did lots more in leadership. This is just our big idea. So this was, obviously, it's up there, our semester 1 final. And so we had to come up with this idea, and originally we had no idea. We knew that parking was a problem here, and that was actually before we had the back lot, which does help now. But we looked at Clarkston High School, and they have decorated senior parking spaces, and we thought that was A, a way to promote school spirit, and B, it was like a fun way for seniors to get, a little privilege over the underclassmen. So we kind of all came up with it, and I'm a junior, and they're both seniors, so this really only would have benefited me, but they were kind enough to help me with it. So anyway, we come up with it. We, like the people that just presented, Maddie and Savannah, had a binder, and so we had to, come up with frequently asked questions. We had to come up with a plan, and then we presented it in front of staff members. In the auditorium, and the picture just up there was actually of us presenting, and so somebody else can go for it here.
Okay. So what we did, we kind of broke it up. So with the binder, we had a few things that we had to do. So we had to have a timeline, and then a price, who it would benefit, and the materials needed and stuff like that. So we kind of had to put that all together. So each of us kind of took 1 or 2 things, and we did a bunch of research on it. I called Clarkston High School and talked to 5 different people to try and figure out how many illegal parkers do you have. Turned out there were none, so it was all kind of for that. But because I know that's a problem at our school, is that we have a lot of people that like to park in illegal spots, and so that was a good thing. And so we saw that, and we were like, that'll really help benefit our school in a good way. And so that was one of the things that we were like, this is a good project, we should keep going with this. And so once we did all that research, we kind of put it together, and we just practiced and stuff like that and got it ready for the presentation. And then, we're not done.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. So basically, we did, like she said, some research, and we thought that we would choose the first 3 rows of parking to designate for seniors to decorate their spots. And so we actually went into depth of how many seniors we would have, how many actually buy a parking pass, and how many actually use them. And yeah, so that's
Okay, wait.
so obviously our parking lot is not big enough, nor do we have enough spaces for the top left picture. That's not a reality here. So our idea was, depending on how many people you would pay for one, and then depending on how many people paid for a spot, if it was too many, you'd get put in a raffle.
and then your name would get drawn and you would get a spot corresponding to the raffle, but that was just dependent on how many people actually paid to have a spot. And then we researched a specific kind of paint. So there's like a latex paint that you use on those spaces that actually wears off quite well off pavement. And then we would have had to buy a specific cleaner if this actually comes into motion. So this is something we're hopeful could happen. It might not be when I'm a senior, but hopefully we can do it for people after us. So thank you.
Leadership is incredibly important by the fact that these kids have, they go out of their way. Just a couple important facts that I thought were great is that early dropout rates are distinctively lower among high-risk adolescents if they participate in at least one extracurricular activity. That is something that I think as a teacher is incredibly important to note. Also, that activities help kids build a stronger relationships with their peers and adult staff. I want to see kids here at the high school and being involved in learning from each other, and just I think that is such an important thing that leadership can do. I already mentioned the high school spirit was dwindling, but what I really like about leadership class so far is that it's really helped to build a community in our school. There was a niche of things being done or people being recognized, and leadership class can fill that niche, and I don't have to stay here till 9 o'clock every night filling that niche, so I really, really appreciate it. So that being said, Emily Arell is just going to talk real quick about her personal experience as a senior because she saw the school before leadership class.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Emily. So basically, leadership has really helped me with better public speaking skills. Right now I would not be in front of you without leadership. It was a great opportunity to really get involved in the school and the community. I moved here when I was in 8th grade, so I didn't know anybody, and our class, personally our senior class, is really divided, and so it was nice to get involved in leadership and kind of get them to come together a little bit better. My personal project during the homecoming season was, with a big group of us, we organized the senior homecoming assembly. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it was quite difficult to organize a whole entire assembly and get the time, get when we were gonna, what day we were gonna do it, set up posters, and then on the day make sure we have tables for judging for our lip syncs, and making sure we have chairs and sound system was going, and everybody was ready to go for that. So that was a big project that I got to be a part of. One of the things that we got to do in the community was during Valentine's season, we got to go to Bishop Place and hand out little lollipops with little notes on them that said, "You make my heart pop." And so that was really fun to go out. I had never been there, and I don't think a lot of kids had been there either, so it was really fun to get involved in the community that way. We also got to help with 6th grade fun night. Not the whole leadership class did, but some volunteers went, and that was really fun, building off what some other people said, getting them excited to come to the high school. So they kind of look up to us. So when they see us there, they're like, oh, they're really fun. It looks really fun to be in leadership class. It looks really fun to be at the high school. So it was fun to do that. Personally, I am a leader in track. We have team leaders, captain type things, and so I'm a hurdler, so I am the team lead for girls hurdles, and this year we had 6 hurdlers, including myself, and 3 of them were freshmen, and 1 of them was a junior, or a sophomore. And so at the beginning of the year, it was a little rocky. We didn't all get along. They didn't all quite listen. So I talked to Miss Willie about it, and I got to really think of an idea of how I could be a better leader in that role. And so I really got to work with them a lot and build that relationship so that it was a better program, and they really look forward to coming back next year and coming to practice every day and going to these meets. And so I got them little papers, and we wrote goals on them for their times for the 300-meter hurdles and their 100-meter hurdles. And I had them put them up in their lockers, so every day they came into practice ready to work. They saw those goals, they're like, I want to hit those. And I had little stickers for goals that they made, and then they got little candy bars when they hit their goals. And so that was a lot of fun, and I'm seeing it really work at the end of this track season as it's coming to a close. We laugh every day at practice. We all get along. We have all these jokes and stuff, so that's a lot of fun to see how that worked as being a leader. And my last point would be a better delegative leader. At the end of this, we just started this week, and we're doing a senior week, as they've mentioned before. And so my group is kind of in charge of making that ball roll. And so one of the things we have is a senior breakfast, which is a brand new thing that we're bringing in. And so we really have a lot of things to do with that to make it come together. And so me and my two other group leaders are really working on picking people to do certain tasks, and we really got to know throughout the year how everybody in our class works, so that now that we're doing this project, we can be like, okay, this person wouldn't be very well suited for that role, we're going to give it to this person. So we can get that task done, and we can get that senior breakfast rolling. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you.
Awesome.
Numbers impress me because I teach English and history, so I figured I'd just throw some exciting numbers out there. This year we had 2 classes that were filled to the brim. At the beginning of the year, I had, first semester, I had 32 kids in one class and 34 in another, and those extra 2 were like the Robbies that had to try to beg to get in, which was pretty exciting. I already have 68 students who have signed up for Leadership 1 next year, and I have 8 out of the possible 15 students who could take Leadership 2, because you have to take Leadership 1 before you take Leadership 2. So 8 of those students are signed up for Leadership 2, and potentially more depending on where leadership fits in the schedule. Homecoming and Stadies were the most financially lucrative in PHS history, which is awesome. I love making money, so that's a good time. And also this year we had more students run for ASB elections than we ever had before, which to me is a huge success, because I think kids are starting to equate leadership with ASB, and that was really kind of one of my goals. So I think that is definitely, and our lovely exec board here are proof of leadership class really kind of advertising for ASB. Now I'm going to have Pepper Johnson and Effie Felsted come and talk about 2 of the really, really awesome things that they're, I mean, it's amazing. It's all I can say. Okay, introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Pepper Johnson.
And I'm Effie Felsted.
So our Shark Tank project, we wanted to kind of create a more positive atmosphere towards Valentine's Day, because we felt like a lot of times students kind of feel negatively towards that day, and it's like, no one loves me, it's just a stupid day, and everyone's just kind of bitter. And so, yeah, so our idea was to kind of make it so everyone could feel included on that day, no matter what other people did for them. And so we purchased, was it 950 cupcakes for the staff and students to all be able to have a cupcake on Valentine's Day. And we made Valentines for everybody. It was just a heart with their name on it, and we taped them up all over the school so that everyone had their own Valentine.
One of my favorite things about having the Valentine hearts up all over the school is that people would go around looking for their name, and we had a heart for every single person, so people would be able to find them. And we even had some for the special needs students, and they would go around and they said that they felt really included, and the teachers really appreciated that. And so that made me feel really proud that I was able to make the school feel more unified, and that we could provide just an opportunity for people to have positive association with Valentine's Day, and possibly create a sort of tradition for that.
Yeah, and I think it also just kind of created, like Effie said, more unity, and everyone had just positive feelings in general because of that towards each other, and regardless of the day, everyone was just, I feel a lot happier because they all felt included and kind of unified by this event.
Yeah, and so another thing we worked on, or are working on, as we heard earlier in the meeting, is Unified Prom. That's coming up this Friday, and Pepper and I have taken on a lot of the responsibilities in organizing that. And it's been really cool because Miss Willie kind of stepped back and said, okay, this is your project. Do all of the delegating yourself, figure out what needs to be done. And so it's cool because I've never really had so much like authority over a project like this, and I've gotten to see all the little details and parts of trying to organize an event, and there's been a lot to do, and it's been really great to have students in our class being able to help us and do these certain parts of the project that need to be done because we couldn't do it on our own. But it's been a cool opportunity to have unified prom for these special needs students.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we said, I like all of that. And I don't know, I just really like seeing how happy these students are. We also coordinated a dress exchange for the girls so that they didn't have to purchase dresses for this, and they were just so happy to have, like, they were trying on the dresses and they just felt like they were the most beautiful girls in the world, and
yeah, they basically loved every single dress.
Yeah, they loved all the dresses.
So as soon as they found one that fit,
they were like,
"It's
this is my perfect dress, it's the most amazing thing," and I love how happy we're making people. Like, it just makes me happy.
Yeah, it's like these opportunities we wouldn't have had if we didn't have leadership class. And it's like we can't put everything that we've gotten an opportunity to do and all the great things we've learned on just one little slide. But another thing that's beneficial to specifically us is that a lot of these things we've been able to put on our resumes, and because one of the goals of leadership being a CTE class was to make us more hireable, I've been able to put some of the organization skills and the projects I've done on my resume, and I recently got a job, which was really cool. And I just also wanted to say that we not only just do projects, but when it's not a busy time, like there's no dances coming up, sometimes Miss Willie will take a day off to just teach us some sort of attributes of a leader. So we'll work on like the values that leaders should have. It's not just like, okay, this is how you organize stuff and this is how you boss people around. It's like leaders should be examples. And so we talked about filling people's buckets at the beginning of the year and having the characteristics that someone would want to look up to. And so we've focused on those sorts of things, which has been really cool because you don't always get that in your other classes. It's focused on education and not necessarily like, like math. You talk about math. And it's just kind of cool to be able to have a class where you learn some things about how to be a good person just in general and as well.
Yeah, and just to add to, I'm applying for a full-time job right now, and so it's like really like important that my resume be like very professional and things like that. And so not only do I have more things to put on my resume because of this class, but I have, like, Miss Willie's taught us a lot of skills that's helping me in organizing my resume and talking to people and going to interviews and things like that for jobs. And so I'm really grateful for those skills.
Yeah, and so it's just been great.
So we've done a bunch of stuff. I think that's the best way to word it. So that's just some of the stuff, some of the things that a lot of the kids, we still have 2 more people talking, but one of the things that I was really excited about recently is we did Teacher Appreciation Week, and we decided superhero theme was our theme, because it's so much more fun to have a theme. And so each of the teachers got a superhero door decoration. And then we also wrote "You're Super Because" little cards to all of them. So they all got their little cards. And then we made them superhero suckers. So pretty exciting. Obviously teachers never get the thanks that they deserve. So I wanted to make sure the kids, we talked about why we thank teachers and making sure we really want them to feel special. Speaking of someone who doesn't get the thanks he deserves, Colin Finch is going to talk. No, Carolina's going to go last. Lena's going last. Good job, Lena.
Well, I was lied to, but so my name is Colin Finch, and I've been very involved at the school since before I started leadership, and I wouldn't say that I was ever like a wallflower. I was never a quiet person who wasn't really realizing their full potential as a leader. I was a leader, but I would say that before leadership, I had a lot of raw, just like desire to do things, but no really direction. Like now I know how to correctly write emails. I know how to dress nicely. I've always dressed badly, but leadership has kind of given me a direction to kind of hone my creative and leadership style and kind of realize that there's a lot more that goes into being a leader than just kind of saying you are. One of the things is that it hones skills. It also creates opportunities, like a lot of the people that have been up have mentioned. It really allows you to just get out there and do things that you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do, like all these Shark Tank ideas. Mine was embarrassing, so we're not going to talk about it. But it does give you a lot of opportunities that might not exist otherwise. It also helps to change students, like whether or not you start as someone who doesn't have a lot, who is very out there, or someone who's very shy. It helps you realize that a leader can be any type of person. You don't have to be super outgoing and super confident. A leader can be quiet and a leader can be loud. Loud. No one else was quiet in this room, but they all left. So another is like, but now I'm the ASB secretary, but before I didn't even know what ASB was. I'm still kind of learning. But leadership has kind of allowed me to hone that and really allowed me to discover what I truly wanted to do with my high school career and try to help make a difference.
Some of the things that I wanted to mention, so obviously I think this class is pretty awesome, but some of the things I did want to mention that I know were things that we talked about last year at the school board and stuff. We discussed some issues. One of the things was the executive ASB requirement. I know last year that was kind of a point of contention with getting the class approved. As someone who is the ASB advisor, Spirit Club advisor, cheer coach, Hype Squad advisor, Super Smash Bros advisor, a teacher of Link Crew advisor. We're also starting, or I also teach 3 different subject areas. Having the ASB executive representatives in my classroom and access to them would not only give them an opportunity to do stuff, it would give me an opportunity to sleep. This year, I've talked to my ASB executive group, and we have stressed like the importance of taking leadership, and most of them are trying to work their schedule so they can make it happen. I feel like in years future, it might be just great to know at least the treasurers are in, and Carolina's going to come up and talk as the ASB treasurer why it's important. But just as I'm going to throw that one out there. Also, supplemental materials. I've been working with the CAC, and we've been talking about different supplemental materials that we would like to purchase. Some of them, one of them in particular is 7 Habits for Highly Effective Teams is one that we're looking at. Also, Drive and some other kind of, we wouldn't actually read the whole books, we would take different sections, and I feel like that helps a lot. Help me build my materials and build actually a stronger curriculum as a whole. Also, if the board has suggestions for more community involvement, I stay in my high school bubble a lot. So if you have people that know that might be interested in working with leadership class, like I would love suggestions for next year going forward as well, just because every year I can make, this cool thing about this class is every year I can kind of tweak it a little bit to make it that much neater, and nothing's really set in stone, which is awesome. So those are kind of my words of thought for you guys. I'm going to end on, I'm going to have Carolina talk, and then I'll take questions and stuff. But Carolina is our ASB treasurer this year. I need to sing her praises for a moment. I am so proud of Carolina. I basically forced her to run for ASB. I pulled her aside and said, no, you will run for ASB. You are a fabulous person. I see your potential. And she laughed at me because she didn't know what ASB was. But she ran, and she's become a great leader and has been by far one of the most active treasurers that we've ever had. I mean, things get approved within the day, which is amazing for an ASB treasurer. So I just kind of want her to come up real quick and just explain why leadership was helpful for her.
Hello, my name is Carolina Sears. I was born and raised in Pullman, so I've grown up my whole life in the Pullman School District. I went to Sunnyside, then I went to Lincoln, and now I am a senior at Pullman High School. And Mrs. Willie really did make me run for ASB last year. I had no intentions of doing it. She's like, "You should run." I was like, "No, like I don't care. I don't want to." But I got my friend Joey to run with me, and we did it. And I'm really glad that I did. As treasurer, I don't necessarily deal with money, but everything, all clubs or people who want to access school funds, it has to go through me. And so Mrs. Lacey, who is the ASB treasurer, she shoots me texts every day and asks me to approve POs, that's electronically, and then she also asks me to come down and I have to get my signature on every PO and P card that is like goes through her, like through me. And I didn't know that we did that. Like I didn't think kids really were involved in the money stuff. It seems like just something that the adults have to deal with, but that's something that I have to do every day. And a lot of my teachers don't like me to leave class, obviously. And so being in leadership has really helped because Mrs. Willie is chill and lets me go down. And so every day I have a designated time where I can go and sign all, give my signatures for all those POs and whatnot, and also like do it electronically. And Mrs. Lacey has told me many times that I am the most efficient treasurer that she's ever worked with, and I think a lot of that comes from me having that time to go during leadership and get that stuff done. So in leadership, some of the school events that we do, I think would not be possible at all without our leadership class. The dances, we work on decorations for the dances and planning activities. Also, during homecoming and the Say's dance, we have a spirit week leading up to it. And my underclassmen years, we didn't really do that, and no one really cared, and everyone thought it was really lame. But everyone now, it has become like cutthroat competitive between the classes, and it is so fun. Definitely one of my favorite parts of high school is going back, and we would do hallway decorations and plan activities for lunch and get to do games at lunch. We would get to plan lip syncs and do lip syncs at the assembly, which was always really fun. And no one really cared about any of that before, and it was, I guess when we came into PHS, the culture that was already established was kind of like, if you do that, you're lame, like it's not fun, like it's not cool to be silly like that, but that's something that's definitely changed, and I think that leadership has helped a lot with that. Some other events we do is the block party, which is run by ASB, but the leadership class helps kind of run everything. We also had a barbecue this year that some of the boys in our class put on, and so everyone was assigned different jobs, and we helped do that, and it was really fun. Also something that kind of used to be viewed as like lame, but now it's really fun, and everyone likes to go to those. We also did Teacher and Secretary Appreciation Week for the first time, and so that was fun. Everyone also had their own jobs, and we got to make door decks and whatnot. I also made this presentation in like 3 minutes, so I forgot a couple things, but we also did like the Valentine's Day stuff at Bishop Place, so that was fun getting to go on a little field trip to do that. We also did the food drive, which was super fun, and also something people used to just not care about, and it's lame or whatever, but it got really fun, and I actually got assigned to work with a freshman class, and we ended up winning, and I bought them donuts, and it was fabulous, and that's something that hasn't really been successful in the past, but we had so much food. We spent days in leadership just carting out food to take to the food bank, and that was
1,000 pounds.
Yeah, very successful. We're working on Unified Prom right now, and we also had the Dodgeball Tournament, which was so cool. We've never done it before, but everyone got really into it, and we don't have a lot of stuff that it's like all the classes get to do together, but that was one where there were freshman teams, and you could like intermix kids from different grades on teams, and we did that, and it was just like a really fun event that we all got to do. I think the most important part of leadership is like the leadership skills that we develop for doing all the hands-on stuff. A lot of it is teamwork, which a lot of the time Mrs. Willie just lets us like pick who we get to work with, but sometimes she assigns us to work with different people. And in the leadership class, even though there's kind of different friend groups, everybody like knows everybody and is willing to work with each other. We also have a lot of different responsibilities, and Miss Willie is very much a delegative leader, and so we all get our own jobs, but then she expects us to get it done, and we have to take accountability and make sure we get those things done and meet deadlines and whatnot. Also communication, because even though we're all doing different things, we're all working towards one common goal, so it's important that we all communicate and make sure that we're getting the job done. Like I said, I'm a senior, so kind of reflecting on my high school career, looking back at being an underclassman, our school was, I mean, aside from the teaching, like the education part was great, but there was just not a lot of there was nothing really to look forward to ever. And we used to always complain as underclassmen, like, the school sucks, school isn't fun, like, we never do anything fun, like, there's just not a lot to look forward to. And now I think that the culture of PHS has really changed because we have all these different events going on, and allowing the kids to participate in those really kind of helps us feel like we're more involved and we can actually make a difference here. And it also encourages people to have new ideas, like we talked about with the Shark Tank, all the ideas that the girls were talking about before. We never really had a chance. If we thought something was cool or we wanted to make a change to our school, we didn't really feel like we had the power to do that, and now we do because we have, Mrs. William through the class, we feel like if we have an idea, then we can make it possible no matter what it is. And so I think that leadership has really changed the culture of PHS, and it's definitely changed my experience here. I know last year and this year especially, I've really enjoyed school more just because there's more fun events going on and things to look forward to. And so, yeah.
Thank you. I realize that was lengthier than I anticipated, but I really appreciate the board and you guys letting my students come and give their perspectives. I think this was a great opportunity for them to practice public speaking. Thank you for everyone out there for letting them chat with you as well. Are there any questions I can answer?
Just one
Yeah.
comment. Good job to the whole students as well. I was thinking that a good project for leadership maybe next year would be, and this might already be on your plan, because you get a lot of plans.
We do have a lot of plans.
Maybe incorporate some of the Lincoln Middle School's leadership into the PHS leadership, so there's a transition. I know there's also transition plans that are underway anyway.
That would be awesome.
But having the leadership of PHS mentor the upcoming leaders through the Lincoln Middle School would be awesome.
I think that was great. Actually, my husband teaches 8th grade.
Oh, so that's a
and so
natural connection.
I've been working with ways on how we can get our kids working together.
I knew you would think about it.
Yeah, it helps.
No, I commend you on the success of the class and your outstanding students. So.
Thanks. They're pretty fabulous. I'm quite proud of them. I like to show them off whenever I can.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, crap. I wrote down the wrong thing. How do I get back into? Click on that link.
The link.
And then you know right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Ta-da.
Thank you, Aaron. It's good right there. Yes, the students can be excused, so. Thank you very much. Great job, you guys. Just one last thing with my superintendent report before we get to the visitors section. Over the past several board meetings, we've had several questions that have been submitted to the board, and so I've just prepared a brief response to a handful of those questions, not all. I wanted to just kind of go over, we've had a lot of questions regarding policy and procedure 5253, that's student and staff boundaries. So the information that we shared in March related to that policy and procedure, they're not new. That policy has been around since 2011. It's been updated periodically throughout the years by the Washington State School Directors Association, WASDA. This organization provides significant support to school districts across the state. They do training, legislative lobbying on behalf of schools, and legal guidance, particularly as it applies to policies and procedures. Policy and procedures 52, 53 were updated according to the recommendations, and The revisions were approved by our school board at the January 25th, 2017 meeting. The full policy and procedures as well as revisions made can be found on our website. Just a note, since that time, as a district, we've been working with our staff and working with the associations to clarify some of those items in the procedure that seemed a little contradictory. So I just wanted to update the public to let them know that we have submitted some changes to our legal counsel for review. In addition, we are exploring and are arranging some training to use the current technology resources we have to help our staff communicate more efficiently and effectively within staying in the boundary policy and procedure structure. So those things are in the works. And just a reminder that student safety and security is our utmost priority, and this policy and related procedures in place for the protection of our students as well as our employees. Each year, our employees must complete, and that's all employees, safe schools training on a variety of topics, and one of those topics is student and staff boundaries. And so that's done every year, and each staff member has to actually pass that particular module. Moving on to a separate gift policy 6114, gifts. So that policy was approved at the April 26th board meeting. To clarify, our goal is to avoid extravagant, inappropriate gifts in the presence or perceived quid pro quo or favoritism. This, again, is a standard policy across all districts. They use the same policy and procedure. We really recommend letters as they are helpful in gaining an understanding of a teacher's impact and provide all parents and students the opportunity to recognize a staff member. We did have some questions regarding how those letters were used. Letters are not used to boost teacher salaries. Teacher salaries are based on a statewide schedule. So I just want to clarify that. And then lastly, there are some questions about inadequate staffing. So of course, many of us know that districts across the state are facing some significant substitute shortages in various areas: custodians, teachers, paraprofessionals, bus drivers. And so we continue to advertise for substitutes for all positions, and we have explored emergency certification requirements and the process. We hope these efforts will increase our pool of substitutes. And if you know someone that's interested in substituting, please contact Dagny Myers, a Human Resource Manager here at the Pullman School District. And I did find out today one of our maintenance staff did pass his CDL test yesterday. So we have one more relief driver, and we have two more that are taking tests. And I really want to applaud them for, this is not part of their job, but they're stepping up to help us in times of need. We've also reached out to other school districts, and they in turn have reached out to us to share drivers as they can, but it is very, very limited. So we continue to work on that, and we will continue to brainstorm and work with our colleagues across the state and our state legislature to help address the substitute shortage problem that exists, not only for teachers, but in all areas. So thank you for your time, and I just wanted to give that update.
Thank you. Next portion of the agenda is the visitors section. This part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or a member of the group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. Visitors are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. The board will listen but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. And I do have a visitor's sign-in sheet. There are only 3 names on the sign-in sheet, so I'll call you up in order, and then after that, if additional people wish to speak, you certainly may. We were asked at the last meeting to adopt a different timing system, so we do have a visual timer tonight. And I came early to the meeting so that I could learn how to use it. And I'm going to do my best. The way it works is that the green the green light will be on for 80% of the time, then it will switch to yellow for 15% of the time, and red for 5% of the time. So red means wrap it up. I have not figured out, if you don't use the full time, how to then reset this timer. I'm sure there's a way, but I practiced and I couldn't figure it out. And so I'm just asking everybody to bear with me. So we're going to try this new method. And so I'd like to start by calling up Jenny Harder, and Jenny, I'll try and get this working.
I'll just time it right. Whether it works or not, it'll be fine.
Are you ready? I'm Jenny Fluter-Harder. I live at 1515 Southwest Casey Court, and I first wanted to say thank you to Dr. Maxwell for the letter of invitation to meet individually. I appreciated the opportunity to meet with you and Director Everman on a more conversational setting this last Tuesday. Encourage any of the concerned community members or staff to meet with all of you individually if they feel their concerns have not been addressed or have other concerns that come up. I appreciate that Dr. Maxwell spoke about WASDA, because a lot of us have been wondering just what is WASDA, because we all kind of have to do with the Washington State Superintendents Association, and so this was all very murky for us. So doing some research so that we could figure out what exactly this WASDA thing was all about. It's a Washington State School Directors Association, aka our school board members here. I talked to Stephanie at WASDA because they actually don't have the super best website, and Stephanie says that she is their policy person. She says that membership is for school boards, their directors are members, and it does require a subscription. The WASDA is a state agency only because they have director membership. They are in charge of coordinating the policy development for K through 12. They provide model policies. Some of those policies are required by law. However, school boards have local control if they adopt the model policies or how they are worded. So we've seen how our community input made a difference in the wording of Policy 6114 for gifts, and we as a community hope that the trust you gave to the parents in making appropriate choices would also be considered in extending the professionalism of your staff in Policy 5253P, as well as during the communication via school email addresses with students regarding school business. And perhaps those are the two that you're working on. We just saw a really great demonstration by the leadership committee. And what do you know? My two high schoolers have enjoyed this school year in part because the leadership team has created relationships, and they have worked on building relationships between a wide variety of people in the school, and the people have extended those relationships, and it has made the school a stronger place. These are not educationally based things, but it makes the kids want to come to school more. So 5253P to us as community members, when you cross out that kids' physical, mental, or emotional health needs can't be met by teachers if it doesn't have an educational demonstrated purpose, feels like you don't trust your staff members. There's all kinds of other stuff in there that tells them how they need to behave professionally. I think you guys can trust them to reach out if they need to build those relationships. I think it's done. All right, hey, thanks.
Thank you, Jenny. The next speaker is Phil Honeywell. So far.
Well, yeah. I'll be short, so you'll have time to figure out how to reset it.
I can't.
I'm talking in light of something that Director Monstrotolo said during the last public meeting concerning executive sessions, and specifically I want to speak about Resolution 161705, the Transparent Government Resolution, which you passed in January. Director Monstrotolo said while discussing the various reasons for executive sessions, and I quote, "Because after all, it's really hard to negotiate if your position is known publicly. How do executive sessions fit into the framework established by way of the Resolution 161705. What makes negotiations with various bargaining units any different from any other negotiations that school board is engaged in? It's simply put, they aren't any different. State open records laws already mandate open availability of nearly all records related to the Pullman School Board and their actions, activities, and discussions. With this in mind, it would appear that the Resolution 161705 is a solution in search of a problem that doesn't exist. I would propose that all district negotiations under that model then be open for public observations. If transparency of this nature is good enough for the frontline staff of our schools, then it should be good enough for all board business. If not, then the Resolution 161705 should be stricken from the record. Our public schools should not be utilized as a testing ground for management versus labor and business theory. As a community, we want to see collaboration between the board, administration, and school staff. This resolution, as seen by the school board based on what we've heard, builds an antagonistic and divisive relationship instead. Please consider repealing Resolution 161705. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Ilana Carrier, and Lana, this timer still has 47 seconds on it, and there's nothing I can do.
Slowly, yeah.
So.
I think it should be right around 3 minutes, so
Okay,
we'll shoot for that.
Thank you. Just go for it all. Yeah.
My name is Ilana Carrier. My address is 1903 Southeast Johnson Avenue. And I work as a program coordinator for the district, so in case it needs to be said, I just wanted to say I'm speaking out of my own personal beliefs. I'm not representing the district, and no one asked me to speak or made me speak. I've watched the recordings of recent board meetings, and I really sincerely empathize with many who have shared their concerns surrounding teachers being placed on administrative leave. But because I work closely with Dr. Kramer, and in the past I worked closely with Dr. Maxwell, even though I don't know the circumstances leading to those leave placements, I can trust that a decision to place a staff member on administrative leave was not taken lightly, and that the best interest of students was carefully considered. But then I put myself in the shoes of parents and teachers in the district, and if I didn't know any of you well enough to have this trust, and my child was coming home in tears and having uncharacteristic emotional outbursts, I would absolutely be sad mad too. And if I saw my fellow teacher, who I interact with every day and who I respect and care about, placed on administrative leave, I would want some answers. And when no one could give me those answers, I think I would feel frustrated. And I think that I would also have some fear that if someone who I saw as a respected and effective teacher could be placed on administrative leave, is there something that I have done that could make me next? And then I put myself in your shoes. And I can imagine that it was a painful decision to place teachers on administrative leave, and that you predicted the negative impact that the decision would have on students, staff, and the community. And now you're prohibited from sharing your reasoning and defending your decision, which inevitably makes you the bad guy. And then from my shoes, since I don't have a child or an everyday colleague whose life has been turned upside down, it doesn't feel quite so personal for me, and I'm trying to look at things from all sides. And as I'm doing that, I'm just so very concerned with the division that I see in some big pockets across the district, and how destructive that is for our mission and effectively for our students. So with all of that said, what I'm trying to express in 3 minutes or 3 minutes and 47 seconds is first that this is a really tough time, and I get it. And I get why there has to be a lack of communication from the board and the administrative team. And I get the frustration, the concern, and the fear from teachers and parents. But second, I know that we're all in it for the kids, and we're all working to promote student success and to protect student safety. And lastly, I just ask, where do we go from here? We can't change the events in the past that have led to the division that we now face, but we all hold the power to shape the future. And what I hope for tonight is to spark conversations between those of us who are here and the people that we interact with that will help us to work through, or even to set aside if we have to, the very real emotions that are attached to our current reality, and for the sake of our students, to move forward together in a strong and unified way toward our common goal of student success and student safety. Because if we continue as a team divided, we we will, in unison, fail our students. And I think that we would all agree that that would be unacceptable. Thank you for
Would anyone else like to address the board at this time? Please proceed. Laurel, I know your name, but just follow the standard procedure where you say your name and address.
Your light is going to freak me out, but it's okay. My name is Laurel Nichols. My address is 1520 Southwest Casey Court. 12 years ago, I moved to Pullman from Southern California. The main driving force to that move was the high property taxes my family paid and the low quality of education my children were to receive. As a result, we moved mid-kindergarten for my oldest daughter, who's now graduating as a senior and who has gotten a wonderful education by some of the people in this room, who is very well prepared for college and who got a 32 out of a 36 on the ACT and should get a full year ride to the college of her choice. So I'm very grateful to this district. However, coming here was quite a culture shock. They do a lot of things that they don't do in Southern California where I was raised and went to school, one of which is they don't send children outside when it's under 20 degrees for recess. That was something that I had to get used to, along with a lot of other things that the school district does differently. When my kids were in elementary school, I still have one. I have 3 kids in the district. In elementary school, the kids would often go on field trips during the day that I didn't know about as a parent. That would freak me out. I felt like that probably wasn't the right thing to do. That has been corrected. Now permission slips have to go out. And so I was able to see that change take place. My mother was a school board member for 20 years. I get the sacrifice that you make listening to people like myself talk and on and on. And I was excited to show her the new high school when it was completed. She was horrified. The walkway, she said, was super dangerous, and how dare we have children in elevators in a high school. This is not Southern California. We don't need to do things the same way they do. Our region is diverse geographically, and it's diverse for other wonderful reasons too. Please don't shortcut our students by trying to be like other districts in other states or even on the west side. We have something really unique. I know our board listens to parents. I was part of the team of parents that presented our collaboration day to you, and you board members listened to us so much, we finally said, stop listening to us and please decide. And I appreciate that about our school board, but please keep the uniqueness that Pullman has. Keep the decisions that you are making as a school board and as administrators with our specific community in mind. Our high school is amazing. My mom is wrong. It is not horrible. And I just hope that as you're doing your day-to-day things, you're remembering the uniqueness that we have in our community and are basing your judgments on what is best for our community and our students. Thank you very much.
Would anyone else wish to address the board? Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. Okay. That concludes the visitors section of the agenda. Thank you all for participating.
Madam Chair, may I have a remark?
Please.
Thanks for doing the research on WASDA as a body. I want you to know that this school board is very involved in WASDA. It's a regional structure. There's about 50 school districts in our region, so we've got 50 school boards. There are about 5 elective offices in our region. 3 of the Pullman school board members are in those 5 slots. One on nominating, one on ledge, and I now chair statewide the activities, the body that advises the state activities. We've had a president, at least one that I know of the whole state association came from this school board, and generally we've had Dean served, 8, 10 years on the board?
I was on the legislative committee for several years and then on the
board of directors. So to say that we have trust in the work of WASDA is not, I didn't hear you questioning it at all, I heard you emphasizing it. But we really believe and participate. The only way you can really get in WASDA to get your voice out there is to participate in it. And we host at least once a year a regional meeting here. No other school districts host every year like we do, or almost every year. So since you brought that up in such a positive manner, I wanted to add to that opportunity. So they do have extensive legal counsel that helps save us money in trusting on those decisions. Not to say that we don't ever make a mistake or that WASDA doesn't make a mistake, but they give us invaluable support that we wouldn't be able to afford. Well, we would be able to afford it, but it wouldn't be a reasonable expenditure to replicate that services that are available to us already. So I thank you for doing the research.
I will say that you talked to Stephanie DeHart, I'm assuming. Heidi Maynard, who has been our attorney and head of policy at WASDA, just resigned and is going to work for the Tacoma schools. So they'll be looking for another attorney, but it is run by an attorney. They go through all the stupid, wonderful laws that are passed. And codes and everything that change every single year, and they have to make sure that all of our policies reflect all those changes. And another thing on policy 5250, what is it, 5350? Yeah, okay, that's it. See, I missed 2 meetings and everything's gone in my head. That is for actually more the teachers' protection. If there's ever a request for a public records request or anything, every computer that you use to email a student or anything else is discoverable. In other words, they can take your computer, and if you just stick to district emails, a lot of those are kept on a server, everything is saved for you as a teacher. So it really is an way to encourage you to CYA, so that's it. The important part about it, I think some of the things were misread. You can email anybody, but it was just asking, please make sure that they're using their district emails. Students have emails, teachers have emails. That's all. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right. The next portion of the agenda is the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on in a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, warrants, personnel report, ASB fundraisers, professional and personal services report, records destruction, and transfer requests.
Move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I will second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have action items. The first action item this evening is the Kamiah Elementary School mascot selection. And my laptop battery died, so I'm assuming you're presenting this, but
I am presenting
Okay,
this.
perfect.
Actually, Joe's presenting it, but I'm his proxy today because Joe is at the planning commission
I thought so.
meeting.
Okay, yeah, it says Joe.
We
so-
need our permits to
Yes, so that's important. So
move more dirt.
So I want to commend Joe and the committee that participated on this committee to narrow down your choices for the selection of the mascot. A very thorough process, similar to the process that we went through to name Kamiah Elementary. So again, details are in the background. I won't read that because you can all see it. But again, kind of the rating, they came up with 4: the coyotes, hawks, kestrels, and quail. And so it's the board's pleasure to select a mascot, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Susan, since you were not here at the last meeting, this was an action item at the last meeting.
I know, and then you
Okay.
tabled it, I saw in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
which I thank you for, except that I was on the committee that helped choose the kestrels. And I will say that I got one letter concerning about the KK, maybe being reached out to KKK or something, but it's like Sunnyside Superstars, SS. That could be just the same kind of a consideration. And I don't think I've ever seen SS written for Sunnyside Superstars or FF for Franklin Foxes. So it's just not anything that we do in the district. It's always the school's full name and then their mascot. So I am not concerned about the KK, but I duly note that there was some concern mentioned.
yeah, and I personally just prefer the name Quail, just.
Because they're so cute.
Yeah,
I
and
know.
it's the second most preferred,
But
so I just was.
we asked the community for input, and we got lots. And this was by far their choice and our choice. So I will move that we approve the Kamiah kestrels.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we select kestrels as the mascot for Kamiah Elementary School. Is there any further discussion? Yes.
I did something unusual. I actually pulled some elementary school kids and asked them if they knew what a kestrel was, and they said they didn't know. So they asked me what that meant, and I said it meant a hawk. So a friendly amendment here would be to suggest Kamiah kestrel hawks. So that the school kids know what a kestrel is. So.
Is that an actual?
No, kestrel is a hawk. It's not a kestrel hawk.
Commonly known as a sparrowhawk is what a kestrel is.
Right. Kids know what hawk is, but they don't know what a kestrel is. So just
Well, we've got a.
so anyway, just
They know what a
We've got an
seahawk is.
educational task.
Yeah, there we go. Got a seahawk, we've got a kestrel hawk.
I am not the expert parliamentarian in the room.
Well, the trouble is that we looked at all the I don't think it's up to this body to be able to change the name to
not
kestrel
changing
hawks.
it, it's a kestrel hawk.
Well, add the name.
Oh.
Because that's not what was nominated. So to me, if you'd want to go through the whole process again, I don't know, but we're trying to listen to the community and our constituents.
I understand. I'm just trying to clarify for the elementary school kids what a kestrel is.
Oh, I'm sure after a while they'll learn.
Right.
Yes.
Why don't you wait for birds? It's one of those fish and let them decide.
Okay, so.
Well,
Needs one,
except
but
this is the process we've
if
already
Jim's-
decided on, so that's what we're going to do.
You can move to amend and then you need a second, is what the proper process would be.
Okay, well, I moved
Is
the name
there
to be
a second?
Kamiah kestrel hawk.
Is there a second to Jim's motion?
Not for me.
Okay,
And if there's not a second, it dies for lack of a second.
okay, so that amendment dies for lack of a second. So is there any further discussion?
No, we'll just have to work with the WSU Falconry Club to come in and let us all
Okay.
learn what they are.
So at this point then, we can call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion adopting kestrels as the Kamiah mascot?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I'm opposed. Okay, so the motion passes.
Go kestrels.
Go kestrels. Okay.
All right.
Next, we have policy 3124, removal of a student during school hours. Again, Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you. So again, this is an updated policy to be in alignment with the WASDA sample recommendations. Really some minor things, inserting designee in paragraph 2 rather than principal, because if the principal's not there, there's a designee. Again, some legal and policy references have been updated, so I'll click on that so you can see. Get a little bit of, there we go, you can see it a little bit better. Oops. So again, just a minor, and the teacher should not excuse the student from class to confer with anyone unless the request is approved by the principal, superintendent directed to establish, and that's common things that we have in place now. You can see where we've added designee. So very minor changes to this particular policy, and again, it's a safety issue. We don't want to release students unless we know where they're going and who's asking for them. So.
I had one question about it. I know we discussed it at the last board meeting briefly. Is there a formal process of a designee in routinely when the principals leave the building?
The process is typically that the principal would arrange for coverage or arrange for someone in the building to be on call.
Okay.
So at camp, for example, Tammy Sewell's been filling in at Jefferson. Stephanie Bray's been filling in at Franklin. So we try to use outside rather than pulling a teacher from the classroom, which just creates another substitute issue. So, so we try to cover within, but if not, then there's someone in the building that's designated.
And I assume then that the procedure is going to allow for a designee not to be physically there. The school secretary would know who to call if someone came to the office and tried to remove a student.
Yep.
And it wasn't on, the parent wasn't the person that was doing it and so on.
Correct.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure that
no, it's a good
gap
question.
was closed.
Are there any other questions or additional discussion? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the changes on 3124, removal of a student during school hours.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded that we approve changes to policy 3124, removal of a student during school hours. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is passed. Next, we have policy 3120, enrollment and attendant records. Again, to you, Superintendent
Thank you.
Maxwell.
Again, this is updated with WAS's recommendations. However, we noticed on a review, there are 3 minor reference changes that were missed. And so in the 2015 revision, so RCW 28A 225-040, deleted policy 3122 and added classification essential. So again, this is just more of a housekeeping issue, but we're trying to really clean up and make sure that our policies and procedures are as accurate as possible. So I'll pull that up. And again, with this one, we also changed the format. So this was all kind of an ongoing litany, whereas we just put it in A, B, C, D, E, F, which was WAS's recommendation. And again, clarifying simple language, updating the legal references, cross-references. So this was presented last time.
All right, are there any questions? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I would move that we approve the revisions to policy 3120, enrollment and attendance records as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve revisions to policy 3120, enrollment and attendance records. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, those policy revisions are approved. Next, we move to our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Roberta Kramer, for materials adoption, world language textbooks, where we make her pronounce them in the languages.
It's not going to happen this time either. But I would be remiss, given that it is Teacher Appreciation Week, if I didn't remember my German teacher from high school, Herr Bothwell.
Oh,
He
I
would-
thought you were going to say Herr Rainey, who was my German teacher from high school. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And while my brothers, I have 4 of them, may have given him multiple heart attacks, I was the calm in his storm. So it just made me think of him as I was walking up here. As I shared with you at our last meeting, we've had a very comprehensive process in selecting materials for our Spanish and French courses. And I shared the process that we've gone through as well as those that we recommend. It is about a $46,000 budget expenditure, of which we have the funds to do that. And so I bring it to you this evening.
Right. Does anyone have any questions for Assistant Superintendent Kramer?
I think the process started even before you joined the district. I
Yeah.
know it's been rigorous.
A year.
Particularly along with French, if I remember right. It's been under discussion for a couple of years now.
I think French has been without a formal curriculum as long as I can remember.
Yeah. So it is high time. Yeah.
I move approval of the materials adoption for the world language textbooks.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve these materials for Spanish and French, adopt these curricula. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is approved. Next, we have a discussion item. This is Resolution 171802, our WIAA membership. This we have Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you very much. Again, this is an annual resolution, so this shouldn't be a surprise, but each year WIAA, so the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, requires that the board approve our district's membership in WIAA, which controls, supervises, and regulates our extracurricular activities for the district. So I will switch to the resolution so you can see that. So again, if we want to have extracurricular activities and participation, we need to have this resolution approved.
Well, to clarify, we could have extracurricular activities, we just couldn't
Compete, correct,
to win
sorry.
anything.
Thank you, Jim.
We wouldn't be able to compete, it would not be very challenging, but, you know. So again, I know this is in your packet, but again, this is an annual resolution that needs to be approved and returned by the second Friday in June.
All right.
So is that time sensitive? Do we need to move it to an action item this evening, or?
That would be helpful, but
Madam Chairman, I would move that we move this particular item, the WIAA membership, to an action item this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we move the WIAA membership resolution to an action item this evening. Is there any additional discussion? Okay.
It is just housekeeping. We do it every year, and so it's not very complicated.
Yeah, I normally don't like moving things to an action item, but in this case, it is an extremely routine item. So with that, all those in favor of moving this to an action item?
Aye.
All right, it is now an action item.
I just have, as I spoke to it earlier, and some of you were there at the regional meeting, and there will be a designated WIA representative on our local board. That representative, historically statewide, has not had any real function other than to receive materials. I am chairing a group that is working on building a stronger bridge between the WIA and school boards, and have been working on that issue for 4 years now as part of the strategic plan at WIA. We're actively working on how that relationship will work. But at the very least, a representative like myself that represents 50 school districts and theoretically 50 WIA reps on local boards. There will be some communication. There's an amendment process that is gone through each year. That recently the body just passed amendments. Next year, the WIA representatives on local boards will see those amendments and get a chance to voice their opinions. So when I vote on them, I'll know what the local WIA representatives think about those amendments. Before, it's been more conversations informally with athletic directors and so on, which are already well represented when those amendments are voted on. In fact, they actually have seats on the body that is voting on the amendments, so they get to advise about them, vote on the proposals, and then vote on the actual amendments themselves. So it's like a double amendment process, a double voting process for them. So I'm just, at this time, the process is exactly the same way it has been in past years. I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more than the most routine thing that we do next year at this time when we go through that process, because the WIA, in conjunction with the Interscholastic Activities Committee, collaboration of school board members and WIA staffers and representatives, will be more involved in the process of, so we'll be probably viewing a video so that we know more as school board members about how the WIA makes its decisions and so on. So we'll have to do a little board education, maybe a workshop activity before we vote next year, so that we're better educated on how we can work at, and the mission now of the WIA has changed. Statement I might mention is strengthening all students for life through participation in excellent, fair, safe, and accessible activities. They're really involved in what you saw earlier, rather than just the competitive. They want to be champions, organizers of what sports that they sponsor and activities like forensics and drama and so on. But they also want to be advocates for all school-sponsored activities, and that's why school board members involved in their mission, because it's just so vitally important. So, if no one else is doing it, I move that we. Maybe you already moved.
Right,
yeah,
right
whatever. Read the resolution. I move to support resolution 17-1802, 2017-2018 WIA membership.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution, 17-1802, the 2017-2018 WIAA membership. Is there any further discussion? Not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have approved that resolution. Our next
From our January, we have, you are still our designated representative.
Yes, I am, and I actually started to, just in the last couple months, get emails that referenced these amendments. I cannot understand all of the amendments because I don't have the background in competitive athletics and the structure of all the leagues and all that kind of stuff, but it's, yeah, there's a lot going on.
It'll be up to your IAC member from this region to educate you.
And I know I'm well represented, so
okay,
yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Because you weren't getting those materials.
That's
before.
correct.
And
Yeah, no.
statewide representatives like you are starting to get the material.
Yeah, it's a good sign. Okay, our next discussion item this evening is the 2017-2018 board meeting calendar. And for this, we have
I can
again,
introduce it if you'd like. So,
yes, please.
yeah, so in preparing for next year, we have the 2017-18 board meeting schedule to present for your consideration and Review, all meeting dates mimic the schedule followed this year. Work sessions the first Wednesday of the month, board meetings the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. Although November, December, and actually should probably say July differ to accommodate school and holiday schedules. Note the past dinner event with legislators has been changed to an education showcase with local leaders and legislators invited, and that, if you have forgotten, in the early fall we kind of did a tour and took our local representatives around to actually see what happens at a school. And so I thought that was positive. And we would suggest doing that in October. And that's based on the feedback from the surveys that were given during that event. So I will switch to the calendar. Again, very, very similar. This would be, again, sending invitations to our local legislators to invite them, and if needed, we could always move that date. But again, work sessions would rotate between schools. And we have July 11th. I'll just note tentative possible budget considerations. Rumors are that we may not have a budget for next year till July 1 from the state, which I'm unfortunately probably agreeing that it will be at the last minute, which will cause us to need to meet quickly and adopt a budget. So this is for your consideration and your review. And
I have a question or a suggestion.
Sure, absolutely.
So we have at least one TBA on there, which is the Education Showcase.
Correct.
We also have TBA regional meetings, both fall and spring.
Spring, correct.
So I wonder if it might make sense to just move some TBAs to the bottom and then update the calendar when they're known, so that the meeting days, everybody knows the meetings are set, these are the meetings, but these other kind of different things that are going to effectively be
announced kind of at the last.
Yeah, that they're on the horizon, and I mean, we don't even know sometimes what month those regional meetings
are going to take
are
place.
going to be, and so it would be hard to put them in a specific location on the calendar.
Correct. We know
they
we'll
on here?
have them, and we have it down here. Whoops. Sorry about that. So we have
They're
the
not
spring.
on here, are they?
Well, it's listed as meeting to date to be TBA, but we could put fall, spring,
Yeah.
and the education tours.
Just put everything TBA at the
I
bottom.
think, though, that the education thing in October should be, if you want to have it in October, it should be kept in October. I need to have that.
Oh, you need to have it show up. But we would know, but then we could just have an updated the moment it was known, here's your new calendar. I don't know. I just think it's hard to know where it goes exactly. If it's TBA, how do you place it in there and know to...
Well, another suggestion might be we could survey our local legislators and see what their October schedule might look like and have get a better idea of their availability in October or a date. Shannon? So we can, so this is just our first look at it, so we have some time to explore some things, and maybe we can actually solidify an October date, so it won't be TBA, and then our regional meetings would just be TBA at the bottom and then updated as soon as we find out.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
So would we potentially know in 2 weeks when we go to approve this? About the October
Maybe.
education?
I don't know.
That's remarkable. Okay.
If we don't, then we can
Okay.
put it at the bottom and
Okay.
just hold it as a placeholder, and we'll figure it out.
Okay.
I've actually asked the new WASDA president why we're organized into director areas and we have regional meetings. instead of director area meetings, which is exceedingly complicated because the WIAA is organized into regions. And the Washington Officials Association is organized into districts, which mirrors terminology for local school districts. So I think we ought to have regional meetings. Not have regional, director area meetings instead of regional meetings.
That makes more sense to me as well. Yeah.
Anyway.
I think it's broken down by ESDs more than anything else, the regional.
And those are districts.
Well, they have their own region.
That's
Yeah, it's confusing. Any other questions or comments about the calendar? Okay. The next discussion item is letter from the school board and Superintendent Maxwell.
Just to update you, the attached letter was sent to all staff and parents on May 3rd. It was signed by Allison as well as myself. Though the board had an opportunity to review the statement, the board did not take action on the letter adopting the statement. Adoption of such letter would require you to act upon it in order for all of you to sign it because it would become an action item. Given the time, we felt that it was important to get something out to the community to get them updated based on feedback that we've been receiving. And so that went out without everyone's signatures on it. So we're bringing this back to see if it is your wish to all sign on to that letter and then take an action item on that.
But the letter's already gone, so what's the point?
Because it would be a unified statement from the board.
But the statement's already been made. It's like, isn't that
on the website,
closing the
then it would say that
barn
it's
door
from-
after the horse is out kind of thing?
On the website, it would say that it's from
the school board.
The entire school
The entire
board.
school board rather than.
I can't represent the entire school board unless the whole school board votes in a public meeting, so.
I'm sort of torn. I thought at the last meeting we endorsed the two of you to put out a letter. And it's gone out. And so I think I'm with Susan that there are certain times when you're allowed to speak for us in your duties as the chair. And you've already spoken for us.
I don't think I did speak for you, but.
I think that's the reason for the item is to show unified support.
Well, then I would move that we put a statement on the website saying this has been endorsed by or supported and endorsed, but to put our signatures, include our signatures in a letter that's already sent is strange to me.
Maybe I can suggest something, Madam Chair.
Sure.
I'd like to move this to an action item, if you're willing to entertain it, so we can get it done.
Sure, is there
I'd like to move, I move that we
I'll
move
second it.
endorsing the letter.
All right.
Dr. Maxwell, Dr. Rotolo's letter to an action item.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that the matter of this letter be moved to an action item. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so it's an action item before us. The question of what the action is, I'm not
I'll
quite
make an
sure.
attempt.
Okay.
I move that the record show by our minutes and evidence on the website that the school board endorses the letter as it was sent out.
Second that.
That makes more sense.
Okay, I'll try to repeat this as I understand it. The motion before you is to have on the website an indication and in the minutes that the letter written by Dr. Maxwell and myself is fully endorsed by the Pullman School Board.
That's my motion, you got it.
Okay, is there any further discussion of that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Hey, Sue?
so that is approved. The remainder of the agenda consists of informational items, administrative requirements, update, board calendar, current enrollment, highly capable survey, and plan updated. Then, we do have an executive or closed session tonight. So if there is no objection, the board will recess into an executive or closed session for how long?
15 minutes.
Okay, for 15 minutes to discuss property, and no action will be taken. And at the conclusion of the executive or closed session in 15 minutes, we will adjourn our regular meeting.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for staying awake.